Hello everyone, I'm pleased to see you again. How was it going last week? I'm big fan of LifeTree TV in English. Today's story is about the inner voice and the voice of the heaven. The inner voice is the voice of the heaven and the word of your shaman. Just like this, I have heard. The inner voice is the voice of the invisible world. The inner voice may come from the higher self and the original spirit. The inner voice may come from angels and satans. The inner voice may come from ghosts and demons. Humans would only hear the voice from the inner minds, not knowing the nature of invisible world. Humans would just see the visionary images from the inner side, not knowing anything about the reality of the heaven. Once you recognize that the voice you are listening to is the voice of the heaven, you get to open the box of Pandora that no one knows. Once you think that the voice you are listening to is the voice of the heaven, you come to fall into the deep bark of your shaman without knowing the true intention of the heaven that gives you the inner voice. You may interpret it at the level of your consciousness and gradually fall into the world of confusion and chaos. The inner voice is like a double-edged sword. No one knows whether the inner voice will be the voice of the heaven or the broken radio, which could destroy you. When the inner voice works positively, it becomes the genuine voice of the heaven, and it is the love for the avatar given by the higher self and original spirit. When the inner voice acts positively, the consciousness expands through the instant perception in the inner side. It may become an important milestone to find the right direction of life at the inflection point of life. When the inner voice acts positively, it may play the role of prophet to hand down the voice of the heaven. When the inner voice becomes the sound of broken radio, the human's will is reduced. He has to live alone, being separated from the world. To be worse, he might be exposed to the mental disorders and schizophrenia. The inner voices are all the voice of the heaven. The being gives you the sounds of a broken radio is the heaven. And the being let you hear the true voices of the heaven can be also the heaven. The people who are exposed to the sounds of broken radio are simply living their inevitable lives under the cover of coincidence. Through the inner voices, the heaven deliberately sounds out them the message of broken radio and makes them live as broken life. The heaven separates you from the world through the inner side message from broken radio, activating a program of heaven that intends to solve your karmas, experiencing the most rigorous life. In that process, you might go through the confusion of emotions and the division of consciousness. It is called the law of karma resolution through the world of your shaman. The psychosis and schizophrenia might be caused by the sound of broken radio. It is the Pandora's box opened through the voice of the inner sound. Humanity started spiritual practices to hear the voice of the heaven. Mankind began to pray inward to see the heaven. To see the heaven and to hear the voice of the heaven, human beings created the matrix of prayer and spiritual practices. To hear the louder voice of the heaven and to get the blessing of God, a lot of spiritual people pack their bags and leave home to meet God. Most of them want to hear the voice of the heaven as a sign of enlightenment. Humans want to hear the voice of the heaven as a sign that God loves only them. It is impossible for mankind to distinguish the voice of the heaven from the sound of a broken radio. At the current level of human consciousness, people only believe that all the inner voices are the voice of the heaven, unless he knows the intention of the heaven, telling him the inner voice, unless he knows the way how the heaven works. You have nothing but to criticize him as a strange person or lock him in a mental hospital. Mankind is helpless being about the world of your shaman. Udeka wrote on 13th of March 2019, translated by Big Bird. This concludes today's story. See you again next Tuesday. Bye. Big Bird of LifeTree TV.